can never be the same again.
When the axe falls. The wind howled over the fjord, cutting through the timber walls of the mead hall like a living thing. Torches flickered, casting long, twisting shadows across the faces of the warriors gathered inside. They had returned from raiding, their bodies battered, their arms heavy with plunder, but their spirits still bound to the thrill of battle. Yet among them, there was a silence that unsettled the hall. Eric, the youngest of the raiders, had fought bravely, yet he could not shake a growing unease. Tales from the old scouts had long warned that when a Viking dies, the journey does not end on the battlefield. Some were claimed by Odin, chosen for Valhalla, while others were whispered to wander in the twilight, caught between worlds, never truly dead. It began that night, after the mead had dulled their senses and firelight painted grotesque shapes on the walls. Eric heard it first, a low, keening wail, almost human, almost not. He turned to the hall door, half expecting an enemy raid, but the fjord outside lay still under the silver moon. "Do you hear that?" he whispered to Bjorn, the burly veteran beside him. Bjorn's eyes narrowed, his hand brushing the hilt of his axe. "It is only the wind, boy," he said, but his voice carried the hollow edge of doubt. As the night deepened, the wail grew closer. Shadows flickered at the edges of Eric's vision, twisting unnaturally. And then he saw it, a figure, clad in the darkened armor of warriors long dead, standing silently at the threshold of the hall. Its eyes glowed with a cold light, and its mouth opened in a silent scream. The hall erupted in terror. Some men drew weapons, others fled, but the figure did not advance. Instead, it raised one skeletal hand and pointed toward the fjord. One by one, other figures began to emerge from the darkness, their faces twisted in pain, their bodies half-formed, shrouded in mist. They were the fallen, warriors who had died in distant battles, yet had returned. Do they not die?" Eric stammered, his voice barely carrying over the chaos. Bjorn's eyes widened. "No, death is not the end for us, not truly. Odin claims the brave for Valhalla, yes, but some linger where the river meets the sea. Some never find peace." The ghostly warriors did not speak, but their intent was clear. They were lost, trapped between worlds, their fury unspent. They drifted into the hall, their claws of cold mist searing the flesh of any who dared touch them. Screams echoed as one by one, the living warriors were dragged toward the fjord, their bodies growing pale, their strength draining as if the river of the afterlife itself were pulling them under. Eric ran, heart hammering, across the frozen timber floor. He stumbled into the scald, old Leif, who sat in his chair as if waiting for him. "It is time," Leif said softly. "Do you know why they come?" Eric shook his head. "Because even in death, a Viking cannot escape the thirst for battle. Some of us burn too fiercely to rest. The river of hell calls them, but it does not take them. And so they return, drawn to the living by what they cannot release." Outside, the moon was swallowed by a sudden eclipse, and the wails of the dead rose to a deafening crescendo. Eric saw the fjord itself heaving, as though the water were alive, grasping, trying to reclaim the souls of the fallen. He felt a tug at his own chest, a cold weight that threatened to pull him under. Leif extended a hand. "If you wish to survive, you must accept what lies beyond. Fear not death, but the refusal to die." Eric hesitated, torn between flight and the unknown pull. As the spirits reached for him, he grasped the scald's hand, and in an instant, he was no longer in the mead hall. He stood on a desolate shore, grey and cold, the sea stretching endlessly. The ghosts of warriors wandered aimlessly, some whispering, some screaming, all lost. A figure approached, tall, armored, radiant with a light that burned without warmth. "I am Odin," it said, voice echoing like thunder and wind. "You have survived, boy, because you have the choice. Some die and go to me, to feast in Valhalla, to fight until Ragnarok. Others linger, because their hearts cannot let go. The dead are not always gone, and the living sometimes must walk among them." Eric realized then the truth. Death was not the end, but a crossing. Some Vikings reached Valhalla, their spirits feasting and fighting eternally. Others were caught in the currents of hell, neither dead nor fully alive, their cries haunting the living. and a rare few could glimpse both worlds, forever changed. When Eric awoke, the hall was silent. His comrades were gone, vanished as if swallowed by the night. Only the skald remained, his eyes knowing and sad. "Remember," Leif whispered. "When the axe falls, you may think death comes, but death is only the beginning of another battle." Outside, the fjord gleamed like molten silver, and Eric swore he saw the shapes of warriors rising from its depths, waiting, patient, eternal. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, their wails still echo over the fjord, reminding the living that Vikings never truly die. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, remember to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good scare.